Hey guys, this is Ricky and check this out. I maidened the T1 Ranger this morning and this is video of the second flight. The first flight is done all in manual. I typically fly for about 5 minutes. I go ahead and trim using the trim switches. Then I land it and I make sure I note how many milliamps it consumed in the 5 minutes. I recharge the battery and I see if I need to adjust that. Then I make note of where each control surface is. I recenter the trims, and then I mechanically adjust the clevises to make sure that everything lines up how it did when it was trimmed. So in this case, I only needed to turn the elevator clevis once, and each aileron I had to turn one time. So pretty much everything lined up perfectly. I was just a little bit off. So this is the second flight. So I went ahead and took off. Typically, I usually have to do another trim flight to see if everything is level, but the T1 Ranger flew so well. My adjustments were spot on. So after I flew it and I checked, it was trimmed. The next thing I test usually is horizon mode. I make sure the navigation modes are fine. So I flipped into horizon mode. It was perfectly level. Then I went into loiter and pretty much kept everything default. I think I made the loiter radius about 60 meters and it held perfect. You can see the wind is about 10, 11 miles an hour and it just circled for about 5 minutes. Here are a couple things I learned from my flights this morning. Number one is I should have inserted the SD card in the flight controller before I mounted it in the fuselage. There is no way I'm going to be able to get in there and put that SD card in. So what I had to do is I had to pull the telemetry from the logs on my radio. So here you can see where it was loitering, and it did a fantastic job. Here's the pavilion where I was sitting. And then here are a couple of runs I made out to the highway. You can tell that I have the dynamic power in my Express LRS receiver turned on because when I got out to about here, you could hear it start ramping up. Now, this is only about a quarter of a mile away, and I've had my Express LRS go out well over a mile and still stay at 25 milliwatts. So maybe I was getting some interference from some antennas over here. Maybe where I was sitting in this little pavilion, maybe some of the metal was shielding it. Either way, because I have voice call outs on my radio, I could hear when the Express LRS was ramping up to 100, 250 milliwatts, 500 milliwatts. That usually tells me I need to turn around. The upside down mounted VTX antenna seemed to work fine. Typically, I don't fly much farther than this, and it flew fantastic. Because it was doing such a great job at loitering and maintaining its altitude, I went ahead and grabbed my phone and took some video. It was extremely difficult to, first of all, even find the plane in the phone screen, let alone make sure that I was able to keep it in the frame the entire time. You can hear it's pretty windy. It's 10 or so miles per hour. That's what the airport said, but the T1 Ranger seemed to cut through it just fine. This plane is so quiet. You can barely hear the motors ramp up when we're going into the wind for it to maintain altitude and a nice pretty circle.
4 minutes.
If you looked where the arrow's pointing,
50 milliwatts.
that's where you'll see the dynamic power of the Express LRS ramp up just for a second and then go back down. It works pretty good. One of the reasons I chose this setup is I wanted a working wireless head tracking system. I have everything ready to go. I just wanted to make sure that the servos worked. In this case, it looks like the pan and tilt setup works flawlessly. Here you can see the dynamic power ramp up a ton. So I don't really know what was going on right here. Maybe the pavilion I was sitting on was blocking something, but it usually doesn't ramp up that quickly this far away. And in fact, I wasn't very far away. But you can see as soon as it stabilizes, it goes ahead and reduces the power to whatever it needs. Here is a quick little return to home test. Everything seemed to work flawlessly. The next steps for me are I need to do an auto tune flight, and after that, then I will try the auto launch. During the Maiden, after I landed it, I noticed that one of the wings popped off. That got me a little worried because when I was setting the plane up, I noticed that it was very easy to insert the wing and remove it. What I didn't realize was I didn't press the wings in far enough for them to click. After I did that, it is extremely difficult to remove the wings. I hope you enjoyed the flight.